This is the India development debate. I'm Sandeep Gurumurthy. With me in New Delhi is my colleague Supriya Srinath. It's shocking, it's unprecedented and it's unparalleled. In an unthinkable assault on the Indian judicial system, 4 top judges of the Supreme Court today launched an all-out attack against Chief Justice Deepak Misra for abusing powers while allocating important cases. Breaking all tradition, the 4 judges, Justices J Chelameswar, Ranjan Gogi, Madan, Lokur and Kurian, held a press conference almost 2 weeks after they wrote a letter to the Chief Justice. In this letter, the judges had expressed their concern over the CJI using his discretionary powers while allocating cases. Not just that, Justice Chelameswar even went to the extent of saying it is up to the nation to decide whether Justice Misra should be impeached.
Indeed, the tremors were felt all across the nation even as the government quickly went into a huddle to defuse the crisis. Prime Minister Modi is known to have had a meeting, and an urgent one at that, with Ravi Shankar Prasad, the Law Minister, his Deputy P.P. Chaudhary, along with Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, an eminent lawyer himself. In a state of shock, top politicians and jurists insist that these are testing times for the Indian judiciary, while former Attorney General Sori Sorabji slammed the judges for revolting against the Chief Justice of India. Many other jurists feel the judges may have had some compelling reasons to come out with no recourse left to them. The Congress is contemplating at this stage an impeachment motion against the Chief Justice in the budget session of Parliament. The first of its kind mutiny in the Indian judicial system. The judges at war is exactly what we're discussing and debating right here on the India Development Debate tonight. I'm Supriya Srinath and with me is Sandeep Gurumurthy. Joining us is a stellar panel right here. We've got Justice Mrs. Misra, former Judge Supreme Court of India, Justice M.F. Saldana, retired Judge Bombay and Karnataka High Court. We've got Gopal Jain, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court, Justice R.S. Sodhi, and of course Prashant Bhushan, Indian lawyer, activist and politician right here. So thank you very much, each one of you, for being with us. And Justice Saldana, if I may ask you, this is unprecedented. A public recourse of this kind is perhaps unprecedented. One hasn't seen the top 4 judges going all out, and this is an all-out war against the Chief Justice of India. How will you read this? Do you believe this is a desperate attempt by men who've had no recourse after writing to the Chief Justice, or do you really believe this is mutiny within the ranks?
I'm sorry, madam, there's no, is he mutiny?
You believe there is no mutiny at all? And this is perhaps people with no recourse? Justice Saldana?
Not at all. With the greatest and respect to you and all humility, we can't use words like mutiny. This is what I call a desperate cry for justice. I mean, everybody wants justice. What about the judges? I've been a judge for 16 years, and I've gone through situations like that not once but dozens of times. I've tried every conceivable means as a disciplined soldier. I have not opened my mouth, but I've spoken to the higher judiciary, to the Supreme Court, to the CJI, and absolutely nothing has happened. Now years have passed. The situation is just going from bad to worse. See, I'm sorry to use these words, but the judiciary cannot function like a feudal institution. Again and again and again we hear the words that the Chief Justice is the first among equals, which is very true. He is my colleague, he is my friend, he's got to carry his friends with him. Now there are many times when he's got to listen to the point of view of the others. You can't just steamroller or bulldoze it. Now these are serious issues, and when it doesn't happen, this is a deadlock, total deadlock. Some time back the whole country has seen that you see a bench passes an order. Now that was a very sad situation where judicial order was administratively set aside. It's happened to me, and I'm sure it has happened to lots of other judges also. So these are situations which have to be stopped and rectified, and there's no other option.
Okay, there was no option left. That's the view from...
So it is unprecedented.
Okay. It is unprecedented, and there was no option, and this intervention, in a sense, was unavoidable. That's a preliminary view from Justice Saldana. Let me get a preliminary view from the entire panel before I take this.
All right, before we take this forward, let's actually take a quick view from the entire panel right here. And I will go across to Justice Sodhi, who's also joining us. right here on ET Now. And Justice Sodhi, if I may ask you, how big a blow is this to the credibility of the judiciary in India? I mean, I think Justice Saldana is justified in saying that this is perhaps not mutiny, and you know, there needs to be greater responsibility with which the Chief Justice needs to weigh his actions. But away from all of this, if I may ask you, how big a blow is this to the credibility of judiciary in this country? Because for most people, the Supreme Court of India is the last port of call. It is the apex court. It is seen as the final authority on most matters that we'd like to challenge. Justice Sodhi.
To my mind, it is something like passing the last nail in the coffin. You have virtually discredited the entire judicial system. The justice delivery system has received such a blow that at the moment it must be in ICU. And this is terrible what has happened.
Okay, you're calling it a big blow to the credibility of the judicial system. We're getting two differing views, so to say, so far in the panel. That's wonderful, because we want our viewers to get all sorts of opinion for them to really make up their mind on what really is an unprecedented crisis in the Indian judiciary. Justice Mrs. Gyan Misra, how are you reading these developments, ma'am? How big a blow is this? Do you agree with Justice Saldana that the situation was, in a sense, that these four judges were left with no option but to go in for this public open revolt against the Chief Justice of India? Or do you believe these actions damage the institution?
It's definitely a big blow to the dignity of the institution and the credibility of the institution, that it cannot put its own house in order and has to go to the media for redressal of the grievance. And it is unprecedented in so many ways, because all these years we have not come across a situation of this nature where the judges have to break the boundaries of the convention and the dignity and go for redressal for the grievances and the aberrations in the system. But having said that, I am quite sure the judges who went to the extent of going to this level must have been really compelled to go and speak out to the media in regard to this very, very distressing situation. But again, I would say that this, I'm not too sure that it could have been as a last resort to go to the media and because ultimately the media at the most can highlight the issue. It cannot, or rather it could not, it do not have a remedy of the situation. So I guess there were other alternatives, and both the sides, the forum of the CJI as also the judges, they before taking recourse to this extreme situation, could have had a meeting, a full court meeting to discuss and come to a solution as to what exactly should be done in a situation of this nature. But even before that, I guess the remedy was to call upon the registry and first of all have an account as to why this is happening, because basically I feel that the complaint is about the forum shopping.
Correct.
And this is the listing of the matters is generally done at the registry level.
That's
so
right.
I guess before going to this extreme situation, it would have been better if other alternatives had been put to test.
Gopal Jain, you've had two judges say that this is not mutiny, this alternative should have been looked at. The other one says this is terrible as far as the judicial system is concerned. Which side of this entire debate are you on? And just to take the point forward that Justice Gyan Misra made, which is about coming to media may just highlight the issue but find more remedies. But do you believe when there are allegations of forum shopping, you're not looking at immediate remedy? What you're perhaps looking at this stage is to highlight the issue. And in some sense, this is what the judges wanted to do. Do you stand by what they have done, or do you believe they're not justified in perhaps, quote unquote, washing their dirty linen in public?
No, I think it's not a question of taking sides. I think there are two important issues here, that now in the public domain we have issues which have been brought to light by 4 senior most judges of the Supreme Court. And equally, as Justice Gyansudha Misra said, I also believe that a solution, a way forward has to be found. And this is where I believe Team Supreme Court has to come together, because ultimately all the judges make up the institution. So it's time that the 4 senior judges, the Chief Justice, all the other judges put on their thinking caps and address these issues one by one, because these answers are to be found within the judiciary. Nobody else can find a solution to it. For example, as somebody mentioned about assignment of cases, or as we call it, a roster, one way forward could be you decide on various subject matters, decide on benches who will do it, collectively decide it at this meeting, and say for a period of 6 months or 1 year, this type of case will go to a particular bench depending on the expertise, the fluency in the subject matter. So you will have continuity, it will be transparent, and people will know where they stand in terms of the assignment of work. So if it's done in a transparent, scientific way, maybe you can get in management experts to do it so that time is also efficiently spent, and people know that this is going to continue for a period of time, then we can provide a healing touch to this. So idea is you should not rush to conclusions. It's too early to use expressions of the kind that you did. It's important that we douse the fire and we move forward, because the institution and its long-term credibility are more important. A situation has come, but we should not blow it out of proportion while debating it.
Fair enough. You made your opening comments there, but this is not a situation that we can sort of overlook. This is an unprecedented situation. Who would have thought that 4 sitting judges, including the one who's next in line in terms of seniority to be the Chief Justice of India, would raise questions on the entire manner of functioning of the Supreme Court? But let me get in a quick word from Prashant Bhushan, opening comments, and then we'll take the debate forward. Prashant Bhushan, should they have sought redress within the legal system instead of tarnishing the image of the judiciary, or were they left with no option?
Yes, they did seek redress internally. They wrote to the Chief Justice, they took up the matter and again with the Chief Justice. In particular, they took up one particular matter which was listed today. It was mentioned yesterday, and then it was listed today before number 10 judge, the matter of Judge Loya, which is a politically very sensitive matter. And they took up this issue with the Chief Justice also, and when the Chief Justice did not listen to reason and continued to assert his authority to send cases wherever he wants, and the most egregious example of that is the manner in which he dealt with that medical college case, where he himself was involved, where he was told that, look, this is an investigation which directly involves you, and therefore you ought not to deal with this case either on the judicial nor on the administrative side. And yet he not only proceeded to deal with it on the judicial side, and thereafter on the administrative side he took away the matter from the 5 senior most judges and assigned it to 3 very junior judges in the Supreme Court. So therefore it was clear that the court was being run in a most extraordinary manner by this Chief Justice, who was abusing and misusing his authority as Chief Justice and master of the roster.
All right, fair point indeed. Justice Sori, if I may ask you, what do you make of the substance of the charges that have been levelled by the 4 dissenting senior most judges of the Supreme Court? Can you deny the fact that there are systemic issues in judiciary that need to be addressed, the kinds that Prashant Bhushan referred to, about being a judge in your own case, or about taking away cases from senior judges, sending it to junior judges? I mean, the fact that serious allegations have been made by these judges, what do you make of all of those?
Of course they are. They will always be. Listen, they are 24 wise men sitting together. 2 wise men hardly ever agree with each other because they are so wise. Here there are 25 of them. There's always bound to be there's always bound to be trouble, and there's always bound to be dissent, and that is why benches are made. Otherwise they would be single judges only. Bench means one can dissent against the other and then go ahead. But there are procedures. You don't spite a man and destroy the system. You can't. You don't do that. You yourself have a few months to go. I mean, these call themselves senior most. When you call yourself senior most, obviously you mean there's somebody senior to you also. Or you say everybody is equal. If everybody is equal, then you are not senior most. I mean, you must understand there is a system in every working, in every class, whether it's a government, whether it's a judiciary, whether it's the army, whether it's the navy, whatever it is, there are systems of resolving problems. You just can't walk off to the press and say, now this is what has happened, my conscience has revolted. Okay, all right, if your conscience has revolted, resign. And say, I'm sorry, I can't be a party to this mess. Resign.
On that, Justice Saldanha, Justice Sodhi, they're really having a strong position. He's saying that if they had such a big problem, they should have probably resigned instead of going to the press and making a mockery of those allegations. Your response to that and the manner in which they've gone about raising these issues of judiciary?
So these are with utmost respect. I cannot countenance a situation. With utmost respect, I cannot countenance a situation whereby in a situation where you have been wronged and you are at the receiving end, we were told, I know for 16 years I was told that if you are unhappy, walk out of the judiciary. We have come there with commitments, we have come there with dedication, we have come there to achieve something and to do good. Now, would it have been nice if this morning the 4 honorable judges had walked out of the judiciary? Look at the loss, look at the damage. All 4 of them are outstandingly good judges. I can say that, and nobody can question that. Now, do you want us to lose them because of a situation like this? Resolve it for all time to come. It will be done, and I hope it's done. Sometimes a little shake-up is required. This is not a mutiny, this is not destruction. I don't see any damage happening. I think only good will come out of it. I'm confident about it.
No, I just want to take a quick question to Justice Misra and Justice, I think at the heart of this entire controversy, and this entire controversy really began with the question of what is the role and what is the power of the Chief Justice of India? Is he really the first among equals only? And given the fact that the allegations are on how he's behaving, and then of course the line says he's just first among equals at best. That's exactly what these judges have said. How would you see the role and the powers of the Chief Justice of India? Is he a towering personality in the Supreme Court, or is he perhaps just somebody who's a master of roster and a first among equals only? And is that where the heart of the controversy is?
You see, if you read the letter of the Honorable 4 judges, you will see in the letter itself, it has been acknowledged that so far as the allotment of the cases as per the roster is concerned, it lies with the Chief Justice of India and in the Chief Justice of the High Court whenever it comes to the High Court matters. So it is all a common knowledge in the legal and the judicial fraternity that so far as allocation of cases are concerned, that clearly lies within the domain and discretion of the Chief Justice. But the question is that yes, it lies within somebody's discretion, but the question is that whether the discretion ought to be used judiciously or capriciously. So that is the line that has to be drawn, and that depends upon the conscience of the Chief Justice, integrity of the Chief Justice, and the role and responsibility that is bestowed on the Honorable CJI to deliver justice system. And if we have reposed confidence in the CJI that he has the duty and the powers also, and I think there is a reported judgment also that it is the Chief Justice, and with all due credit to the Honorable 4 judges, they have themselves stated in the letter that the CJI has the primacy in allocating work and fixing the roster. So there is no two opinion about it, there is no confusion about it. It is the Chief Justice who has the authority to allocate the work. But if as I've already repeated, the justice should not only be done, it should seem to have been done if there were complaints or, you know, criticism that the things are being functioned, that maybe a dialogue could have taken place between the CJI and the other honorable judges, that if this is happening, let there be a remedy and there be you know, corrective course in allocating the work. But I am not too sure whether this could have been settled straight away into the media and in the people's court, that how it is to be done. That speaking for myself, I would have taken an alternative course where a dialogue could have taken place between the CJI and the honorable judges before, because ultimately media is not going to resolve the issue. The people's court is not going to resolve the issue. So maybe a more balanced approach was required to resolve this kind of a deadlock. And maybe if the things were getting out of hand, maybe even one could have gone to the president for a, you know, for I don't know, I'm not.
So you're saying any option,
because it's a very unprecedented situation, unusual.
You're saying any option but going to the press is what Justice Misra is saying. That's a clear view. I'm coming to you, Gopal, but I'm going to get a quick word from Prashant Bhushan on the point that Justice Sodhi made earlier, and Justice Saldana disagreed with him there on that. Would the right thing for these 4 judges to have been to quit and then go to public with these charges, if at all? Would that have been the right thing for them to do? Prashant Bhushan.
No, certainly not. I think in such circumstances, the right thing, when 4 senior judges of the Supreme Court have expressed their lack of confidence in the Chief Justice, I think the right thing is for the Chief Justice to quit now.
Who will intervene?
All right, but you know, I do want to look forward, and this does look like a full-fledged constitutional crisis there. And Gopal Jain, who will at this stage intervene? Will it be the Chief Justice of India, who's obviously in the dock with these other judges? Will it be the President, the Parliament? I mean, what is the way out? And it does raise questions on what is the role of the government of the day as well. So who is going to come in and douse the fire? Gopal Jain? Okay, it looks like I've lost the line with Gopal Jain. If I can go across to Justice Saldana, and Justice Saldana, it's unfortunate, but it's also unprecedented that a war like this has broken within the judiciary. Who do you believe will have to come in and douse the fire? Who will have to intervene and end this crisis? I'm presuming it can't be the Chief Justice, because, you know, the war is between him and the other judges. Will it be the President? Will it be the Executive? Will it be Parliament? What's the way out of this crisis?
Madam, to be quite frank, there was some suggestion that perhaps the matter could have been placed before the President. But the President cannot, constitutionally, he has no power to interfere either in the administration or in the working of the Supreme Court. He just doesn't have the power or the jurisdiction. Now the same applies to the legislature and to any other body. This is a very rare, and it is unprecedented, that's correct, but sometime there has got to be a first. The solution will have to come. I mean, the general view, I agree with Justice Sodhi and every other right-thinking person, that the solution will have to come from within the Supreme Court, and it is capable from coming. But I would like to see, now one of the obvious solutions is that these powers, you see, to turn around, I mean, it is true, I am not saying no, that the power is vested in the Supreme Court for administrative, in the Chief Justice for administrative reasons. But the point is now the manner in which that power is being exercised. And I personally for years seen the problems even at High Court levels, not only in my High Court but in other places. So we'll have to probably have a slightly more diluted manner in which that power is exercised. Instead of the Chief Justice himself, perhaps if he have a small panel, or if he talks to his colleagues, you don't need an official forum for that. You can always talk to your colleagues, take them into confidence, say that, look, this is an important matter, whom shall we place it before, etc. Something like that. A working norm will have to emerge, and it will. It will. I am very, very confident about it, because no judge of the Supreme Court, none of them are interested in a crisis or a deadlock or in any form of damage or discredit to the institution. This is my confirmed view.
Sure.
And I am very confident for good reason.
Okay, you're confident for good reason that there will be a way out. Gopal Jain, how do you see this conflict getting resolved? I mean, who's going to intervene? Is it something that the judiciary needs to sort within itself? Is there any scope at all for any intervention of any other force, whether it's the President, Parliament, Executive, Chief Justice as well? How do you see this getting resolved, Gopal Jain?
Well, I have two suggestions or thoughts on this. One, I believe that all the judges must collectively meet, and if required a smaller committee can be made. Suggestions can be invited from amongst themselves as to how the present system can be strengthened insofar as rostering and assignment is concerned. Second, there have been several past Chief Justices whom have also dealt with a similar-esque situation, so they can always be taken into confidence for good advice, because sometimes you want somebody who's been in the office, who understands the different viewpoints and who can then provide a little bit of guidance from past experience. So I think what is required is wise people coming together, providing a healing touch to move forward, rather than this being a point where, you know, people will say there's been a breakdown. So we should prevent a breakdown, and we should find constructive, practical ways by which this can be debated and deliberated amongst themselves, and maybe, as I said, by some former and past Chief Justices who can give constructive suggestions to them and give them, you know, alternative suggestions. And that way I think you can build consensus around it. As long as everybody is involved in the process, it will be seen as an institutional mechanism. The moment it is A or B, that's where I think the problem has been. So I think we should put that behind us and look at the way forward.
Absolutely. But I do want to take a question with Prashant Bhushan, and Prashant Bhushan, you know, while Gopal Jain is putting some good solutions on the table that ideally best solve amongst themselves, otherwise get a former Chief Justice, but the role of the government, and you know, we've already seen politicians give sound bites, talk on this. What should the government be doing at this stage? Is it best that the executive stays away from this controversy? Is there any role that you see whatsoever for the government? Are they really better off by keeping a distance and let the judges solve this crisis on their own?
Government need not play a role, but eventually if there is an issue of misconduct of the Chief Justice or of any judge, then clearly the only way out eventually is that of impeachment. I mean, we have been saying that there needs to be a better way, there needs to be an independent institution created for judicial accountability and examining complaints against judges, but so far it has not been created, and therefore the only method is impeachment, and that is what will need to happen, that is what will have to happen if things are not redressed immediately.
For the judiciary to resolve this matter among themselves. Unfortunately, the matter is getting politicized, and you can't deny it. You've had a political party leaders meet these judges. The Congress may seek impeachment of the Chief Justice. Is it now turning out to be a political hot potato, political issue, Justice Sodhi?
You are absolutely right. Now, this was the greatest fear, that the politician is now going to have a ball, a rollicking time. And because there is the politician has stepped in, it is going to make news. Now the nation is going to boil one way or the other. But all said and done, what have you done? One pillar of your democracy is being ruined and attacked in such a manner that the credibility of that system is at stake. Why would I, as a litigant, want to go to this court which cannot resolve its own problems and seeks to resolve my problem? Why would I?
Justice Saldana, what's your view? I mean, who should be resolving this crisis, and who's politicized this matter? Do you agree with Justice Sodhi that, boy, I mean, the guys who are really having a ball are the politicians out there on both sides of the political spectrum?
It is inevitable, madam. It's quite inevitable. Justice Sodhi is 100% right that He is 100% right that when something of this magnitude takes place, there are lots and lots of entities who will enter the field. Now there are various allegations being made, this, that, etc. But on the question of a solution, the Justice Sodhi is right, Jain Saab is right, my learned sister is right. It has got to happen, according to me, within I would say, the institutional forum, and I would like to see a little bit of an expansion, if you don't mind, because there's no want of jurisdiction. It would perhaps be nice, because you got to remember that most of the court work and everything that happens in the court, it's true that judges are hearing it, but what about the bar? We've got lawyers in our country whom I would responsibly rate as being among the best in the world. And why not they can just put their heads together. For instance, I will tell you that when I was on the government panel many years ago in the city of Bombay, we had a system once a month. We used to have a little meeting, an informal meeting with the judges, when we used to tell them that, my lord, this is our grievance with regard to many areas, and they used to tell us also there are also a lot of areas which require improvement. It was a very constructive move. Now something like that could also be thought of. Why leave the entire body of lawyers out of the picture? I think, and ex-judges, yes, that is certainly a very worthwhile area which you should tap. Now just have an informal meeting. You don't have to have a conference. Have an informal meeting, say that, look, this is all that happened, talk to each other openly, and say that, where do we go from here? It will happen. It can happen, according to me, within half a day.
Justice Misra, comment on that, on the point made by Justice Saldanha. That's a very progressive move for him to say that even lawyers should be consulted as well. And also on the fact that, would you acknowledge that what is imperative is for the entire Supreme Court, for all honorable judges in the Supreme Court, to acknowledge that the system is broken, that they need to review the entire process in which cases get assigned. Is that acknowledgement critical? Because we don't know yet if that's something that the other judges in the Supreme Court agree with. Is that the bone of contention? Should there be acknowledgement of the fact that that system is broken and it needs to be revisited? And of course, we've got some great suggestions on board right now. Justice Misra, this is for you, ma'am.
You see, I am reminded of the tenure of the former Chief Justice of India, the senior Justice Y.V. Chandrachud, because I was a practicing lawyer at that time, and I recollect that I treat him as not really as an excellent CJI, but also a very able administrator insofar as the administration is concerned. And I recollect that whenever a new system was introduced, he would write a letter to the president of the Bar Association. Like, for instance, I would illustrate my point, like when review petitions initially were listed in the open court for arguments, and he wanted to do away with the system of hearing. And if I remember correctly, he was the one to introduce that review petition should be decided in chambers by the judges. But he did not do it in one go and just pass an order to that effect. He wrote to the bar. Whenever he introduced a new system, he would always write to the Bar Association president. That was put into the general body meeting of the Bar Association. A resolution was passed. The suggestion was circulated to all the lawyers and those who wanted to participate in the general body meeting. Then a resolution was passed, and that resolution was then sent to the Chief Justice of India, and after discussion, it was whether that should be introduced or to be rejected. That decision was taken. Whether the court fee put into the whether it should be, initially it used to be sent to the lawyers, later on it was he who decided that it would go to the party, then he decided that that limitation report would not be, if it is within the limitation, like small instances I am giving, that whenever a new system was introduced into the administration of justice, the Honorable Chief Justice of India Y.V. Chandrachud would always send to the bar and would take a decision after having a consultation with the bar members. So, I would suggest that the solution will have to be carved out from within the system. But I would also suggest that the bar members should be taken into confidence before a system is introduced. And it's not that the first time that the roster, the question of roster has cropped up. Long ago, there have been very heated debates as to how the matter should be fixed. At one point of time, it was also suggested that it should be by lottery or it should be by, some kind of, So, the bottom line is that if you want to introduce a system, all stakeholders should be taken into confidence before a system is introduced. This is what I, just a passing thought suggestion that I have for the moment.
Taking a cue from the word that you use, confidence, and Gopal Jain, I am going to throw this to you. For a lot of people in this country, Supreme Court is the last port of call. The issues that you want to challenge, you have this inherent faith in the judiciary. What does today's event do to that faith? What implications does this have on the rule of law in India? What implications does this have on so many people who believe that the last port of call, Supreme Court, is above it all? Because what we are seeing today is judges being at war, and the senior most judges at war within the court itself.
So, Priya, confidence can't be won and lost in a day, especially when the institution has such a long history. I think, as most of the panelists have suggested, it's now for the court to rally around, all of them to sit together and immediately come up with a way forward plan. And this question of having collective stakeholder engagement, I think, is very important. For example, even the Attorney General, which is a constitutional position, even his advice can be sought on this rostering and allocation of work. So, idea is how to deal with the issue rather than send a disturbing signal that all is lost and the ordinary litigant will lose his confidence, because ultimately he has only one place to go at the end of the day, and that is the Supreme Court. So, I don't think everything is lost and it's too early to take a call. We shouldn't rush and jump to this kind of a sweeping conclusion right at the beginning. Idea is how quickly they can all come together, or as people have suggested, a little bit of guidance from legends, luminaries, President of the Bar Association, Attorney General. So, heads have to come together and they have to deal with this issue rather than leaving it. If they are able to do that, the confidence will be maintained. If it doesn't happen, then I believe, as you rightly said, it will send out a disturbing signal to the litigants.
Justice Sodhi, the big picture, really, what implications do these developments have for rule of law in India?
Again, rule of law in India is only as good as the weakest link in its chain. And for the time being now, it appears to be that the judiciary appears to be the weakest link today, and it is snapping. Therefore, the rule of law is not possible to be maintained unless the judiciary resolves its issues and comes back on rail.
All right, I'll take this across to Justice Saldana. And Justice Saldana, what's your own view? I mean, given the fact that, the rule of law has to be supreme, does this in some sense hurt the faith that people have in the Indian judiciary? When you see some of the most powerful men in Indian judiciary disagree and dissent so openly and so publicly?
Madam, can I start with a rider?
Sure.
Let us not forget that the issue involved in this whole crisis is something that gets replicated, because we've got, true, the Supreme Court is our supreme judicial body, but we have got high courts in every state where the same state of affairs is required to be considered. Now, we don't want it to spread. I fully agree that we want now that it has happened, you see, it's like an epidemic. You control it, beat it down, and take the necessary steps so that something good comes out of it. Because otherwise, please remember that now this question of allotment, this question of assignment, now all these issues are identical in every high court. And I mean, in what way is it different? Unfortunately, this happened at the apex level in Delhi.
Right.
But I can tell you from my experience and the experience of lots and lots of my colleagues that this issue will have to be addressed, because otherwise it will blow up at all the high court levels.
Okay, let me get a word from Prashant Bhushan. Let's take this debate forward. Prashant Bhushan, how big a blow is this to India's attractiveness as an investment destination? We're a business channel, so obviously we're worried about the big picture. India ranks 164th in the world when it comes to enforcing contracts. We've got a very poor record to show. How big a blow is this to India's attractiveness as an investment destination? Foreign investors will be looking at this drama unfold and wondering what's going on.
The reputation will suffer a further blow, but you see, these are facts. This was what was happening. It's just that it is now in the open. Lot of people say that why should problems in the judiciary or why should corruption in the judiciary come out in the open, because that will erode public confidence, etc. That's a completely nonsensical reason. Why should any corruption come out in the open? It will erode confidence in the government. Corruption needs to come out in the open, misconduct needs to come out in the open, so that things can be redressed. Otherwise, all those things remain unredressed.
I think that's a valid point there. Keeping it shrouded in mystery and undercover corruption is not going to go away. I get that point there, but I do want to talk about investor faith and investor confidence, and who better than Gopal Jain to address that question. Gopal, you know, every investor that we speak to, on and off the record, they all say they have a lot of implicit faith in our judiciary. You know, they believe that there is a rule of law in this country. From that point of view, what does this really do as far as India as an investment destination is concerned, as far as enforcement of contracts is concerned? You know, we are an attractive investment destination. One of the reasons is that there is a free and fair judiciary. Does that get compromised by today's event?
So let me just put the record straight. This very institution, the Supreme Court, has given a landmark judgment on privacy, landmark judgment on triple talaq, landmark judgment on the NJAC. So it has a good solid track record, and taking the public into confidence versus shaking public confidence are two different things. The fact that they've applied transparency to themselves and put it out in the public domain itself, I think, is a good sign rather than having something simmer inside. But quite apart from that, this question that you've raised, the track record of the courts in general in enforcement of contracts or ensuring the sanctity and integrity of contracts hasn't been the best. And that's where I think they have a national duty to ensure that contracts are fully implemented in letter and spirit, and the government also, as a sovereign, must fully discharge its promise. The problem lies that we build in elasticity or equity, bring in equity, because that's how the judicial system and the architecture built around it, and you bend contracts. So I think, like we've done with arbitration, where the courts have now become pro-arbitration, they respect the arbitral process, they respect awards, the challenge is minimalistic. The same test has to be applied now to contracts, both for investor confidence, India to go up, and as a matter of sending a strong signal that contracts are in safe hands in India, including at the hands of the judiciary. But that's a separate aspect. I don't think this has a direct bearing on that. That issue has been simmering for some time, so that has to be addressed. And like they did with arbitration, a lot of knowledge flow happened, a lot of thinking happened, and finally they've arrived at this. So I think the same has to be done for contracts.
You know, we want to look ahead and look at the positive, if any, out of this development. And Justice Sodhi, coming to you first, does this development have the potential to be a trigger for legal reforms in India that we've been speaking about for years now? Could this be the event that triggers the much needed legal reforms?
I think so. If you want to revive the patient from the ICU, you better start giving him his vitamins, and you better put an end to the malice for what he's suffering. So we must be able to pinpoint exactly where we are deficient, what are our problems, and how we are going to approach solving those problems. If we can, we will survive. If we cannot, we are doomed.
No, I do hope that the Indian judiciary is never doomed, but I think quick closing comments from each one of you. We are really, really short on time here. And Justice Misra, what sort of exhaustive judicial reforms should we look at? Because there are many out there who believe that the time is ripe and right for the judiciary to look within and reform, and for constructive reforms to happen from outside. Which ones would you count as reforms that will make a change to the Indian judicial system?
I feel the judiciary is too strong an institution to be affected by, the hiccups of the administration, hiccups in the administration of justice. And if something has happened, I would not suggest that it should be brushed under the carpet, or it should not be looked into, but the remedy should start from home. It is, I think, the collective wisdom of the judges. I have full confidence and faith in the collective wisdom of the judges. If some reason has cropped up, I guess the entire body of judges should first of all come out with a suggestion as to how it should be looked into, how it should be dealt with, because this reform, its appointment process is another aspect, impeachment is yet another aspect, but these are the administrative, allocation of work is an aspect which is clearly related to the administrative system of justice as to how the work it should be allocated. Let the matter be placed before the constitution bench, that the matter should not be left merely to the wisdom and discretion of the CJI. It should be, whenever there is the complaint, or that should be left to that should be a committee which should decide where and which matter of public importance should be allocated where, to which bench. Maybe a collective, but so far, as long as the judgment and that it should lies within the domain of the Chief Justice, I think some reforms would start from home, I would say.
Okay, fair enough. A quick word from you, Justice Saltana. Does this set the stage for legal reforms? Are they likely to be more in the administrative sphere, which is in terms of allotment of cases, or do you think that this is time for judiciary to look beyond just administrative reforms and look at a complete overhaul? Do you see that happening?
I want to see it happening. I want to see it happening, and I hope it will happen. But that can only... I'm sorry, I want to see this happening, and I hope it will happen. But that can only see reality provided we totally give up. You see, for a long time we've had an unfortunate norm of cover-ups. For a very long time. On the same argument that has been bandied from this morning, saying that if something is... now what happens in the case of a disease? Don't you do an in-depth analysis? Don't you do a diagnosis? Now in this case it may be unpleasant, that's right. The point is that one is the attitude should not be to cover up. Let us start with the idea that you see, there's no problem with regard to the confidence in the judges, but I can tell you, speaking for myself, that whenever we in the judiciary in different states where I served spoke to the government, and I can say this to the credit of, I'm not going into political parties, but I'm talking about the government, when we asked the government for additional facilities, for additional money, additional equipment, whatever we asked for was forthcoming. And I'm very sure, you see, the central government and the state governments, they want to see development, they want to see the country improve, they want to see things even at the international forum. Our stake will go up. And I think there should be a dialogue with regard to streamlining the working. Now, one very simple aspect, as far as the courts at all levels are concerned, why not professionalize the whole management? Why put it on the shoulders of sitting judges who are otherwise overburdened? You get professional experts and management experts, and overhaul the whole manner in which the system is working. I can tell you it'll make a world of difference. So that is what I'd like to see coming out of what has happened now.
And there is no doubt about the fact that all of us would want the judiciary to reform, because Indian judicial system has stood the test of time. It has been the last port of call as far as the Supreme Court is concerned. Any faith in the Supreme Court should not be shaken, and if this event leads to some reforms of the judicial system, they are perhaps welcome. But on that note, thank you very, very much, each one of you, for joining us. Justice Saldana, Justice Sodhi, Justice Misra, Prashant Bhushan and Gopal Jain. We really appreciate you taking time and talking about a very, very important subject with us right here on the India Development Debate this evening.
Thank you so much for joining us on the India Development Debate this evening. News and updates continue right here on ET Now. Good night.